What's happening? So this is long overdue, but I figured I might as well launch this thing and tell you what I've been up to over the past year. If you're here, there's a really good chance that you know me from Mark Bell's Power Project. And if you're here, you might have been curious enough to want to know what the heck I've been up to over the past year, because that's about as long as it's been since the last time I was actually seen on air, or at least recorded, and then, stuff comes out later. But for the most part, it has essentially been a year since I've no longer been a on-air co-host, an on-air producer. And so I wanted to take this opportunity as episode 0 of this podcast and really just give a background on kind of how everything went down, what I've been doing, and what I'm doing next. And so in order to kind of figure out the whole scenario, we have to go back to January 18th, 2024. 1 week after my mom died. I woke up to dozens of missed calls and text messages, and my first thought, which is kind of a bummer, but my first thought was, okay, what else happened? Another family, health issue or something. And then, it's hard to say, but the first thought was oh no, who else did we lose? Because the night before I was struggling, my mom had died and I was staying strong, but that night before it just hit me really, really hard. And I stayed up late, couldn't get much good sleep. So I said, you know what? I'm turning off all the alarms. I'm not training in the morning. I'm just going to fall asleep and then just stay in bed and kind of mope around a little bit. That was one heck of a day to not set an alarm clock because, like I said, I woke up to my phone just absolutely exploding. But it wasn't a life that was lost. It was 380,000 subscribers that were lost. No warning, no email, nothing. The Power Project YouTube channel was just gone. Suddenly, the podcast guy had no proof he had ever built a successful podcast. The biggest asset on my resume vanished while I slept. The group chat was on fire that day. Questions thrown around who did this? How could this happen? Who has login access? And, again, everybody was freaking out. But what happened was, if you don't know the full story, so again, kind of going back to the beginning of 2024, Power Project was crushing. And then out of nowhere, boom, it was completely gone. At the time, we were helping and building another podcast on the channel, separate from us. And unfortunately, they had posted a link that was to research chemicals, and that got the entire channel banned off of YouTube. And, policies are policies now that I understand what happened. So no hate. But that's when reality hit me. I had spent 8 years focused on building one platform, and I had nothing of my own. Full transparency, though. At this time, I was starting to kind of finish up my podcast course. The plan was pretty simple. The course was going to ride shotgun to the Power Project while that kept growing. When the channel disappeared, I literally had nothing of my own to fall back on. Everyone a part of that show was growing and building their own thing. From all the hosts on air to the camera guys behind the scenes and editors and that sort of thing, everyone was doing something of their own. I was focused 100% on building the podcast. And again, it's yes, I was building something and I was building my thing, but again, it was just kind of the thing. It wasn't really my thing. And that was a brutal wake-up call. If all of it disappeared, I would have nothing. And in that moment, I had nothing. And not that Mark would ever, give me the boot and kick me out, but what if he decided, hey, you know what? I don't think Mark Bell wants to do Mark Bell's power project. Or what if he wanted to take it into a completely different direction? And, in that moment, again, I thought to myself, like, okay, I've been rolling with Mark for over 8 years at this point. Maybe I should start thinking about building my own thing. And not to sound like a control freak, but I was building something that, if I wanted to go left, but the majority wanted to go right, well, that project was going to the right. Again, right, wrong, whatever. No, I just mean literally, like, if I wanted to make one decision that I felt truly passionate about or felt it was the right move, but majority didn't, believe that, then I couldn't do that. And I mean, that happened for everybody, though. All of us had different opinions on different things. Thankfully, there was never any like bickering back and forth type of stuff. But again, it was a wake up call. And even though that day was the wake up call, I didn't officially answer that call until about a year later. So going back to 2024, though, I did launch the course. I started taking coaching calls, for like podcast coaching calls. I had a really cool opportunity to speak at the Silverback Summit that year. And that was like in November. That was huge for me. That was such a huge springboard. Thank you so much, Allie. So much good stuff has come from that. I got really, really good feedback, some raw data. It helped me a lot because I could see that I could help a lot of people. I didn't realize it, but there was a big need for my brain and what I had to offer. But the unfortunate truth is I simply couldn't be in two places at once. The Power Project has a very demanding schedule, and I had to make the toughest decision of all time, which was stepping away from Mark Bell's Power Project. It's even hard to kind of like go through the whole thing again right now. But again, because of so many other factors, one of those factors being nobody's buying courses anymore. The course has helped a lot of people. People have seen a lot of success that have gone through the course, but unfortunately, it wasn't the revenue stream that I was hoping for. I mean, everybody, maybe not so much now, but everyone has this dream of selling courses in their sleep. The whole point was to let that do its thing while we still were continuing to podcast. But unfortunately, it just didn't work out that way. So what happened was I started to ask myself, like, what are other ways that I can help people with all this knowledge that I have in my head? And so again, that's when I started like kind of being a little bit more aggressive with the consulting calls and then actually doing consulting for companies, which is something I never thought that I would ever do. But again, I couldn't be in two places at once. And as I'm talking to Mark about not being in two places at once, something happened that I don't believe was a coincidence. And I'm going to bring up that term coincidence a couple more times, on this podcast. But I had to make a transition plan with Mark, right? Who fills in for me? How long will that take? Am I still going to be editing shows for the podcast? All these things had to be put in place. And I'll be honest, I was freaking the F out. I'm going to try not to cuss on these things, by the way. So sorry if that feels a little bit less authentic. But it's just, I got kids now. I don't want my son's like old enough to understand, like, that's a bad word. You don't say that. So I'm trying to get better, but they're going to slip from time to time. But anyway, I'm freaking out. Am I really going to make this leap again? And what I mean there is because I've talked about this before on many podcasts. So I won't do it here, but I guess if you are interested in learning about my journey in going from like healthcare to like where I am now, I can totally share that. But the path was something like this. I was super broke, filming rap videos, just trying to get any gig. I was working a crappy job that I hated. And then eventually I took the leap to go work with Mark. Then we took another leap in like owning the podcast. Um, all of this, right? Like, again, making another leap. Like, am I really going to be leaving one of the best fitness podcasts in the world to pursue my own thing? I'm going to mention this not as a brag, or not as maybe not so much a brag, but like, oh, boo-hoo type of thing. But this is the truth. Am I going to do all that while being the sole income earner for a family of 4 with a house? Again, we have a mortgage in California, right? Stuff's pretty expensive here. Am I stupid or something? Right? These are literally thoughts that I had in my head. Like, are you really going to do this? But anyway, back to the coincidence thing. So while I'm on the phone with Mark, kind of discussing like everything, like, hey, I think this is the move I want to make. I can't be in 2 places at once. I can't take, on more clients with like the demand and all this. So I think we need to put this transition in place. And as I'm discussing all of this with Mark on the phone, someone's calling on the other line who's really interested in me producing their show and doing it remotely, of all things, kind of like what I was hoping to start doing anyways. In that moment, I stopped believing in coincidences. I'm not the biggest religious man. I would say, like, again, I don't want to offend anybody or hurt anybody's feelings in my family, but I would say I'm not religious at all. But God talks to me often. So before I could hang up the phone with Mark, basically discuss sealing my own fate, the phone is ringing with essentially at that time my first client. To me, that was a sign that this is what I needed to do. So I said yes to that client. And I said yes to Mark that I would produce shows behind the scenes, and just so insanely grateful because he was just real open and honest with me. It was really cool during this whole thing of like, man, I'm still not 100% sure, but I'm sure this is the move I want to make. He just flat out said like, hey man, this show is going to struggle without you. Like, I need you still producing stuff behind the scenes. So really grateful for that opportunity, because like, man, that was such a huge, again, kind of like my story about like, I started doing my photography business while working a full-time job. So when I took that leap, it wasn't like a huge Neo in the Matrix jump. It was just like a little skip. And again, I can talk about that in a future episode. But the system was simple. They record as they currently do, and then I take the raw files and I publish them. Very simple, very straightforward. It's something that I do for a lot of clients today, and they love it because they don't have to really worry about the minutia of podcasting. They just record their message, and I make sure it hits the right people. I made a really difficult decision in betting on myself, and honestly, really betting on podcasts. Like, I, kind of think about it as like investing in like crypto or something. Like, I think this is going to work out. But I'm really glad I did, because podcasts are still crushing. And I'm recording this at the very end of 2025. My family, the house we live in, all the bills are paid. Our bellies are full. We're still here after making this decision on betting on myself. So, again, kind of going back to the whole thing, I bet on myself to leave the healthcare industry to pursue photography. I bet on myself to start the Power Project with Mark Bell. I bet on myself to take ownership of Mark Bell's Power Project, because again, in that journey, I went from being an employee with a guaranteed paycheck to somebody that was taking ownership, which meant if the podcast made money, I made money. If it didn't, I didn't make money. And, again, it's taken me a long time, but I'm finally realizing that by betting on myself again and betting on podcasts, it really was the good move because, like I said, podcasts are freaking incredible and they're still crushing it in this world. People have a lot of really good stuff to say. They just don't really know how to put it together and like they package it right. They don't know how to package it in a way that is enticing for people to consume. And that's where I come in. I help people hit home runs. Like right now when people are recording, it's like they're making contact. Sorry, that's a sports analogy. I'm going to do that a lot. I love sports, but basically what I'm trying to say is I help people get base hits, turn those base hits into runs, and then eventually hit home runs and even grand slams with their podcast. What I didn't know at the time of like this transition and stepping out and kind of helping other people is that people were willing to pay a lot of money for my business insight. I've seen a lot and done a lot and been a part of a lot of successes. I'll say by proxy. I think that's the right word. Like, even though I wasn't the one making the deals, I was always around it. I absorbed it. A lot of that stuff rubbed off on me. There was one point where I was with Mark Bell more than anybody, filming, hanging out, training. I seen a lot of successful habits, just the way he carried himself. So if you were to ask me, I would say he's my friend first, but he's also my mentor. So a lot of that stuff that him and Andy, his wife Andy Bell, have created at Slingshot, a lot of that stuff rubbed off on me. And so again, for that, I'm extremely grateful for all those opportunities that they gave me. But what would happen is I'd get hired by a business, or a business owner, I should say, to run their podcast. And for a moment, I thought this, and they're probably thinking the same thing. It's like, oh, we're going to get some sick thumbnails, some cool, titles, and our podcast is going to sound cool and all this stuff. But come to find out, I would hear about like some sales that were going on or some like goals that they had for the year. And I would look at the business and I would say, oh, okay, how do you plan on doing that, sir? And, they wouldn't have the best of answers. And I have to be a little bit vague because I'm not trying to reveal stuff. But the truth is, a lot of business owners were actually a little bit more lost than I thought. And I would be at the head of these meetings where you got like the marketing strategy team on one side, you got the business owner on one side, and here's the podcast guy coming up with ideas that are working. And the marketing team is like getting real upset with me. So maybe overstepped my boundaries a little bit. But again, so for some of these high ticket clients, I've helped them sell courses and I've helped them even break through some traumas with recording podcasts. So like for, I guess I can get into it, but before I do that, all of this success, it wouldn't have happened if I didn't bet on myself. Again, that's going to be kind of like the theme about this. Before I started seeing some of that success, I had to survive one of the hardest periods of my life. The first quarter of 2025 was pure survival. Again, kind of going back to family of four, one income. I had to figure out how to make money. I was making $3,500 a month, semi-guaranteed. And little by little, we started making more, but I had to go through some shit first. Sorry. My son would have been like, you don't say that word. I wish I could say we were never in the red. I wish I could say we didn't accrue a lot of credit card debt. I wish I could say that we didn't spend times where all we ate was Monster Mash. Again, if you're in the fitness world, hopefully you are, because I can help you out with a couple things. If you're not in the fitness world, I can also help you as well. But Monster Mash, made famous by Stan Efferding and his vertical diet, it's just ground beef, rice, and chicken stock. It's kind of phenomenal. It's really, really good. except for when your family is sick and tired of eating it and you're saying, hey, we're going to have to do this for at least another 2 weeks. So that was tough. Did we struggle? Yeah, absolutely. So again, this is in 2025, and the year prior in 2024, it wasn't the best financial year, but it was good. The year before that was even better, and the year before that was even better than that. So I have to be honest and say that we had lifestyle creep. Oh boy, was that lifestyle creep there. But then suddenly we didn't have the bank account to support that lifestyle. And that's my fault. It's my fault in thinking that this would last forever. And so that in it of itself is a huge lesson, is that when things are going great, they're not always going to stay that way, especially when you're not betting on yourself. I was stressed out of my freaking mind. So in that first quarter, I eventually had 3 full-time clients. Started to finally get some breathing room. Things were starting to work out, and I'm like, dude, this might work out, right? Then boom, out of nowhere, 2 of the clients were like, hey, we want to pay you less for the same or more work. And I'm like, okay, you literally just signed this year agreement, but sure, why not? I did it because I had no other options, and the stress really got to me. Unfortunately, this is how my body works. When I push too hard in the gym, when I push too hard in jiu-jitsu or inside this studio, with like the stress and the work and stuff, I get sick. My body just completely shuts down. And that comes in the form of me catching a cold, like kind of out of nowhere. I get really, really weird back pain, something that I'm dealing with currently at this moment right now, actually. The stress from making the decision to not be on the power project, having that really hard conversation with Mark, it was really hard. And I ended up getting sick at the end of 2024, a little bit after Thanksgiving. And then I stayed sick just in this constant cycle all the way to February of 2025. So I'd catch a cold, like kind of over the weekend. I'd get through it. And then Thursday night, I'm feeling a little bit better. Friday, I'd be like, all right, cool. We're finally through this. Friday night, I would get the chills and I'd get sick all over again. And the cycle would happen all over again. This kept happening for 3 months straight. There was a period where I felt good enough to go train jiu-jitsu. After one session, I got home and I'm like, dude, no way did I get a staph infection. Like I got this tiny little like bump on my rib and I'm always in denial. Shout out to my boy, Chris. He's always like real and upfront and honest with me. He's like, bro, you got staph. Quit acting like you don't have staph. And so I was really upset because I'm like, give me a break, dude. After one session, so I was really upset. Again, my body does this. So I had plenty of like staph topical cream that I kind of have because once you get it once and then anyways, I treated it just like I would treat staph. And so I stopped training. It doesn't matter because I got sick again anyways, but I treated it with this topical cream. A couple of days later, that tiny little bump, like the size of like a pea, exploded. Like it went from my belly button, wrapped all the way around my ribs, all the way up, like down, up and down my back. It was pretty awful. Again, my boy Chris was like, dude, you have to go to the ER. Like you are really playing with fire. You could die from this. I'm like, fine, dude. Okay, sure. Whatever. Like I'll go. I don't think it's that serious, but whatever. So I go to the doctor. Doctor takes one look at it and he's like, sorry, this is not staph. You have shingles. I'm like, oh shit. Oh, sorry, I wasn't supposed to cuss. He goes, are you under any kind of stress? And I just looked at him, started laughing. He's a little confused. And I'm like, clients want to pay me less. I'm having a hard time paying bills. It's like, yeah, bro, I'm a bit stressed. So I ended up going on antibiotics for 17 days. That sucked. took me a long time to get over that. I'm somebody that's always against like even going to the doctor, but when your close friend is like, dude, you're about to die, you need to go. I went. And so in going into the doctor, I'm like, hey man, like I also can't get healthy. I'm like pretty sure I have like some weird infection thing going on because I cannot not be sick. So I was on antibiotics for 10 days for the like the cold sickness infection thing that I had. And then 7 days on the like the the shingles treatment. Yeah, that freaking sucked, but that was the poop I had to eat in order to see success. Because I'm being real, we did see some success in 2025. Again, kind of going back to that thing about betting on myself, leaning on the fact that people wanted to learn directly from me, right? So like I'd get contacted by a business owner, I would pitch my course and they'd say like, okay, cool. That's awesome that you have a course. I don't really care about your course. I just want to hire you to do the whole thing. So I was like, oh, sure, let's have that conversation. And all of this started because I kind of had the wake up call, but even before the wake up call, I had that gut feeling, the gut feeling that we all have. And I basically stopped ignoring it. I also stopped believing in coincidences. I started realizing that God's telling me what I needed to do. And I started listening to him and that gut feeling. And that gut feeling was clear. You need to no longer go vertical with one show. You need to start implementing and sharing the knowledge with others. For some reason, God gave you this weird draw towards podcasts. You have to share it with others so that way you can help them impact lives of the people that follow them. And I 100% believe that that's true. And I ran with that. The phone kept ringing and I kept getting on more calls with people and I kept producing a lot more shows for people in 2025. The learning curve has like gone straight through the roof. Like it's pretty cool that like I already knew a lot, again, with like over a decade of experience, but then like fast tracking everything by connecting with more people, answering more questions, solving more puzzles. Absolutely freaking phenomenal. None of this would have happened if I didn't bet on myself, if I didn't trust that gut instinct to do this, if I didn't listen to him. We did some really cool things this year. I'm going to reveal some cool stuff. This is stuff that I'm really proud of. With my friend Nico, who I worked with in 2025, he sold his $3,000 course to a completely cold listener, I guess we'll say, because this person wasn't like on the email list. They weren't completely aware of who he was. This person said that she just binge watched like 6 episodes in a row, went on to buy his course. No ads, no sales calls, just content. She watched him, connected with him, and then she purchased. My boy Robert, who I've been working with, sold over $3,000 in supplements just from his YouTube channel. Again, like, you know, the little like, what's it called? Like shopping shelf or whatever. Again, no ads, none of that. Just people connecting with what he has to say. Now, 3K is not life-altering money, but this snowball effect isn't slowing down. It's actually starting to pick up speed. Excuse me for a second while I drink a little bit of electrolytes. Oh. So all that happened just by focusing on their long form content. Again, along with all the stuff that I know and all the stuff that I'm learning on the fly. I took all the knowledge that I learned from helping build Mark Bell's Power Project, and I applied it to several other shows in the health and fitness, industry. What's working, what's not working, and super stoked to announce that I've put all of those lessons into a group coaching program. This is a kind of done with you program where you and I sit down, we talk to each other twice a week, but also if you're like some of these other business owners and you're like, that's cool, bro, I don't want to deal with it. Can I just hire you to do it? Yes, of course. I am still available. I now have a team with multiple systems in place to where we can actually take on more people at this time. So yeah, hit me up. Let me know. This wouldn't have happened if I didn't bet on myself and just do the freaking thing. But do I have any regrets? No. I'm a big proponent in not having any regrets and not looking back and always pushing forward. Do I miss being on air? Absolutely. 100%. Some of my absolute, most funnest times, most memorable moments were being on air with Mark and Nsima. Just hands down. The most incredible experiences happened on the podcast. And if you take it back a little bit even further, some of the fun times, if you remember way back in the day when I'm filming Mark doing Hustlemania, all that stuff was just so freaking cool. I kind of always wanted to get back to that, but the podcast was just such a huge monster. It just never happened. My life would be so different without that. But if all that disappeared, again, I would be left with nothing. And now that I'm betting on myself, it's really up to me to make this work. Again, in the past, I talked about that leap, the hop, and the skip going from healthcare to photography, podcasting, and now this next chapter, which honestly feels like a brand new book, which is Pursue Podcasting. That's the name of the whole brand and everything. I have coaching programs that are specifically for people in the health and fitness realm because I feel like that's where I can make the biggest impact. However, I do work with just about anybody from literally home service businesses to nonprofits, again, health, wellness, all that stuff. But I teach people how to use a podcast as a vehicle to push everything else they're doing forward, how to become authority in their space. It's really, really freaking cool. And something I have to just mention here is I'm insanely grateful for everyone who left comments on the Power Project channel. I did see those. I'm insanely proud of what we did there, but all good things do come to an end. My business coach kind of coached me up on this when I was having a really hard time with the whole scenario. And he plain and simply said, look, bro, nobody works at the same place forever. Things change. And I haven't really said anything about where I've been or what happened and all that stuff that people were asking on the channel because I genuinely didn't know what was appropriate. On top of that, I didn't have an outlet until now. So, if you're digging it, thank you. And make sure you hit that subscribe button, like it and share it, all that good stuff. But if you are listening and watching, there's a really good chance that you were listening and watching back then when I was just the quiet, shy dude in the corner that would have a couple things to say every now and again, right? I was so freaking scared. So yeah, again, for you, I am insanely grateful that you gave a damn about me. But anyway, so that's what I've been up to and what I've got going on now. I got this whole setup at pursuepodcasting.com. If you're ready to build something cool, I can help. Everything I've learned over the past decade and then some has gone into what I help people with. And sorry to make this sound like a sales pitch, but I can't tell you what I've been up to and what I do without telling you what I do for a living these days. Here's what I've realized through all of this. The course not selling, the struggle, the financial stuff, the clients who wanted to pay less, Shingles, all of it brought me back to Stephen Pressfield's The War of Art. It's actually probably the only book I've ever read cover to cover. I'm going to paraphrase because I don't remember the exact line, but basically what he's saying is the more resistance is pushing back on you, the more you need to do that thing, right? So losing the YouTube channel was uncomfortable. Leaving the Power Project extremely uncomfortable. Having my family eat Monster Mash for weeks was uncomfortable. Getting shingles from stressing out about everything, freaking awful. But all that discomfort pointed me exactly to where I needed to go. Every single time I felt that resistance, that fear, that voice saying, chill, bro, this is probably too risky, I used that as my compass. When I was working in healthcare, I was miserable, but I was comfortable, but miserable. The uncomfortable move was leaving that stable job to chase photography. Then the uncomfortable move was taking ownership of the podcast. Then the most uncomfortable move was leaving the power project to bet on myself completely. Each time the resistance was screaming at me. Each time I had every logical reason to not do it. Each time I felt that, the discomfort, it was showing me the exact path that I needed to take. The resistance isn't there to stop you. It's there to show you what you actually give a damn about, what matters. It's there to point you towards the thing that you're supposed to do. I watch coaches all the time who know they need to make a move. Again, I'm talking like trainers, those in the fitness industry, even clinicians and practitioners. They know they need to start a podcast. They know they need to put themselves out there. They know they need to package their expertise differently, but they don't do it because it's uncomfortable. They stay where it's safe. They keep doing what they've always been doing because the alternative feels scary. But that fear you feel, that resistance, that discomfort, that's not a warning sign. That's a compass. That's God or the universe or, again, whatever higher power you believe in or want to believe in. Whatever that is, it's telling you exactly where you need to go. The thing that scares you the most is probably the thing that you need to do the most. I essentially lost everything because I wasn't betting on myself. I was comfortable being the guy behind the guy. I was comfortable not having to take the full risk, right? If it's not all on me, I don't lose it all by myself. You know what I mean? Like I could win and lose as a team, I guess. And when that safety net disappeared, I had nothing. And now I help people in the fitness industry who are ready to bet on themselves. And so like, even if you aren't full-time yet, we'll get you there by building your name and authority through podcasting, building something of your own. So if you are in the fitness industry and ready to use a podcast to sell your programs, high ticket offers, your one-on-ones and that sort of thing, make sure you check out pursuepodcasting.com. It's going to be the first link in the description below. The uncomfortable path is usually the right one. So I want to ask you directly, what's your next uncomfortable move? What's the thing you need to do, but you're avoiding it because it feels a little too risky? I stopped being afraid and found fulfillment in tons of hardship, unfortunately. But I'm here at the end of 2025, smiling. Never forget that, right? Never forget that the feeling of resistance, riskiness, all that stuff. Use that as a compass. That's where you need to go. Stop ignoring it and just pursue it. Peace.